Hi, welcome again to Views from Downstream, my YouTube channel. I'm glad you tuned in again. When I was a boy, I idolized my dad. There's a picture somewhere when I was probably 4, 5 years old with a toy razor, with a face full of shaving cream, and I was shaving my face next to my dad. Why was I doing that? Because my dad shaved every day and I wanted to be like my dad. Now, later on, when I got older, got into my tweens, um, we had our issues and I didn't get along particularly well with my dad during my teenage years. But this illustrates how much young kids want to be like their parents. They want to imitate them. And if you're parents, you know this to be true. And as I said in my last episode, that's the way God designed kids. And you can see why then he emphasizes that it is the parents who are supposed to teach their children about God. Let me read a scripture out of Deuteronomy 11. Or fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Basically, show them, don't not only tell them, but show them how to follow the Lord. And so that's why it's important not just for parents, for you not just to stick your kids in the children's program when they're 4, 5, 6 years old and think that's enough. Because they're not necessarily looking at their teacher in that Sunday school class for guidance. They can help for sure. It's not that this is wrong, but it's the priority. If you prioritize taking your kids to the children's ministry and ignore the fact that you have a role to play, a central role to play in raising your kids spiritually, then that's a problem. Because what they're going to do is look at you. And I can again share my parents as an example. I grew up in a church. And my mom, not so much my dad, but my mom was faithful in taking us to church. I went through confirmation class. But the model at home, no one ever read the Bible. No one ever prayed. No one ever talked about serving the Lord or doing things for the Lord. And so, no matter what I learned in church, the biggest impression on my life was what my parents did and acted out in their Christian faith, which was almost nothing except going to church. So if you think that just taking your kids to church and letting the children's programs and then later the youth programs do the work that God says you're responsible for, then it's not going to work out well. And I think that is the main issue of why much more than half of young people are leaving the faith, because it has not been modeled by their moms and dads. So think about that as we get into next week and begin to look at more of these issues and how to navigate them. But again, thanks for joining me. Check out my website at jimmusser.com for just to learn more about me, I've written a couple books. You can find out about those as well. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.